Americans are appallingly self-righteous. You call them the dimmest bulbs in the world. They also are very self-righteous.
Yeah. All right, then.
That's what success does to people.
All right, let's move it on. Why really has Zionism put so much effort into causing the truth of history to be suppressed and marginalizing and even destroying reputations and careers of those like you and me, for example, who seek to bring the truth to the public and have it debated? Why really do they put so much effort?
Because I think they do dread the truth. And the truth is not a pretty picture. And the problem now for the state of Israel and its supporters is, and here I think many people are missing a fundamental fact. There has been a fundamental change in recent years because that criticism has now broken into the mainstream. And they can't stop it because it's one thing to attack people on the margins as anti-Semites, Holocaust deniers, and the rest, because people on the margins don't have the resources to fight back. You effectively have to take it. You write a letter to the newspaper just doesn't print your letter.
Right.
But they tried that tactic with somebody in the mainstream this past year. They tried it with Jimmy Carter. When Jimmy Carter's book came out, first they said he was in the pay of Arab sheikhs. Then they said he was an anti-Semite. Then Deborah Lipstadt wrote in the Washington Post that he's a borderline Holocaust denier.
Yeah, I mean, absolute garbage, but that shows you how desperate they're becoming.
Yeah, but it's not just showing that. The crucial point is it didn't stick because Carter has the resources and reputation to fight back. So what happened? They tried all of their tactics. His book was still #1 in the New York Times bestseller list for several weeks. His book sold hardback 300,000 copies. And what was the nightmare scenario for them? Jimmy Carter says, I want to go speak at Brandeis University. This is the largest secular Jewish university in the U.S. He goes there. 2,000 students assemble, overwhelmingly Jewish. It's Brandeis. He gets 4 standing ovations. Alan Dershowitz comes up to reply. The reports are 2/3 of the audience walked out before he began.
That is almost the biggest defeat for Zionism.
Oh yeah, in my opinion, I'm right now writing a book I'm not trying to plug it because it won't come out for a long time, but it's called Farewell to Israel, the Coming Breakup of American Zionism, because it's very obvious.
Yeah, are you talking about the de-Zionization of Palestine?
No, I think that American Jews are drifting away from Israel.
Well, what I was going to put you is almost that. I was going to say, is there a case for saying that what really terrifies Zionism is that if the truth of history, as opposed to their narrative, becomes known, the Jews of America and the world will be the first to demand.
I think it's two elements.
The Zionist state be called to account.
I think there are 2 elements. One element is a lot of people don't know the facts, and the facts are now becoming impossible to ignore because they've entered the mainstream. It used to be you're of roughly my age cohort, so you'll remember in the 70s and 80s, Amnesty International would never condemn Israel for torture. It put out a book in the 1980s, Torture in the 80s. It didn't condemn Israel for torture. It wouldn't use that word. Now Amnesty says, and I'm quoting them, Israel was routinely torturing Palestinian detainees from 1967. It didn't say it back then. But now that kind of criticism, you find it in Amnesty, you find it in Human Rights Watch, you find it in all the Israeli human rights publications.
But not yet in the mainstream Western media.
Well, it's not yet in the media, but it is in respected places. The media is having more trouble not quoting those authorities. So during the July 2006 Israeli destruction of Iraq, they had to quote Human Rights Watch saying Israel was committing war crimes. They were having problems ignoring the human rights organizations because these are absolutely mainstream, respectable organizations. And so American Jews, for two reasons. One, more of the truth is coming out in credible organizations, mainstream organizations. But two, forget the truth. It's becoming an embarrassment, Israel. Even if they were willing to swallow the facts, there's also your image. Israel is now a crazy state.
I have a view that the Jews of the world, and the Jews of America in particular, hold the key to peace for this reason. In my view, no American president is ever going to call Israel to account, confront Zionism, until and unless he or she feels that the overwhelming majority of Jewish Americans are with him. Now, you've just been saying, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, that the truth is beginning to come out. Does this mean we are moving to a situation where an American president could be freed up to be serious about peace?
I think it'll open the debate, and there'll be more opportunities for debate now than ever before to have a rational public discussion. And now the real challenge is for those who want a reasonable, just settlement of the conflict to be absolutely reasonable and isolate those who are blocking a resolution of the conflict. Not to come out swinging, not to use incendiary language, not to be gratuitously provocative, but to just say, look, this is the record, and honest people have to acknowledge this record. And there's a settlement possible of this conflict. Every year the United Nations votes on the peaceful settlement of the Palestine question. And every year the vote is the same. The whole world on one side, including the UK, every year. The whole world on one side, the United States and Israel on the other. Okay, it's also Nauru, Palau, Tuvalu, Micronesia, and the Marshall Islands, but that's it. There's a settlement which the whole world agrees on. It's a reasonable settlement. It's the June 67 borders and some what they call just settlement of the refugee question. Let's settle it. Let's be reasonable.
Perhaps the most intriguing of all of Finkelstein's observations was his reference to Hezbollah and Israel. Hezbollah, he said, is more and more resembling the original Zionists, very disciplined, intelligent, organized and focused. And Israel, he said, is more and more resembling the corrupt Arab regimes. Israel, he added, is a very corrupt and debased place. Now, as you heard, Norman Finkelstein places hope for the future in that, and I think I do too. That's all for this week. From this heart to yours, good night.